Good morning. It is 7:30. Wow, I'm running late today. 7:30 a.m. on Thursday, February 4th, 2021. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I've been up for a little bit, poking around. This is 5 more minutes. Part of the reason that I did some other things today was because I had another COVID test, which is required weekly for my work now, and I was just checking the results before I did anything else today, just kind of on the basis that like they're available now. I want to know, but also on the basis that like if they were to turn out to be positive, I would change what I was going to do next after that. But they were not. I'm fine. So, proceeding with the original plan, but the original plan ended up being like, oh, look, the internet. Yeah, so. One thing that did attract my attention this morning is just a reminder of the video game Control, which I realized that I never played the last DLC for that. And it was also on my mind because it is currently one of the free games for PlayStation Plus. So if any of you have PlayStation Plus but you didn't play Control, definitely recommend you check that one out. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and yeah, so I'm just reminding me of that game again. So if you don't know anything about it, it's a third-person action game where it kind of combines a sort of pseudo Lovecraftian cosmic horror with like 1960s retro futuristic brutalism architecture, which seems like an odd combination, but it goes together like chocolate and peanut butter in that game. The basic premise is that you are someone who believes that some mysterious so you had a strange supernatural encounter in your childhood, and it afterwards your brother, who was left changed by the experience, was kidnapped by some mysterious government agency, and you've been trying to track them down. And so you managed to infiltrate the building where they're headquartered at the beginning of the game, only to find yourself enmeshed in an even larger mystery than you realized. And it's a third-person action game where you do a lot of, get psychic powers. So you do a lot of like telekinetic floating and pulling up furniture and using, throwing it at people, and various gunplay. And it's a very good game. I liked it a lot. So I was just thinking about that again today. And in any event, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh, God. I remember what I had been originally planning to talk about today. It's actually maybe just as well that I'm not spending the whole 5 minutes on it, because in some respects I feel like what I want to do is recommend something very strongly, but then also not say very much about it, so that you can experience it fresh in on your own. So what I will want to recommend here is a Hulu show called In and of Itself. It's a movie, so it's about like a little over 90 minutes, I think. In and of Itself, and that's on Hulu right now. Now, what this is the movie version of a stage production that is probably like equal parts one-man show and magic act, where someone who's clearly very good at illusions and mentalism and all those sorts of stage magician sorts of things, but then he is kind of using those as building blocks to tell a very sort of personal story about his own life. And it's very good, and I don't know that you should know any more about it before you see it. I haven't watched the trailer because the person who recommended this to me said not to watch the trailer. So I actually haven't watched the trailer, even though I've now seen the movie. But I will pass on that admonition now. Perhaps it reveals some of the flourishes that would be best saved for experiencing in context. I can imagine that being true. But what I found this movie to be is something really thoughtful um, and moving, but also amazing in the way that good stage magic generally is. Um, my general thoughts on stage magic, and this is sort of a like a parallel context here that I don't is not really a spoiler of any kind for this movie because it's kind of it's a general theme with stage magic is that one of the things that I find fascinating about it is that like I certainly don't believe that stage magicians have so-called real magic powers, right? I understand that what we're seeing is an illusion, but what is generally true about those sorts of illusions it is a little different than what most people sort of think of it as. And I talked on this a little bit when I talked about the Prestige, but like with just a sort of standard like sleight of hand, trick with a deck of cards or something, say, part of what makes them work is there's an explanation that might be a bit more obvious, but seems so difficult and so hard to pull off that the brain just kind of rejects the idea that that could be what it is. Namely, like, oh, someone does something where like they seem to have an empty hand and then they go, whew, and then they're holding a playing card. Like, I can't do it. But like there's an obvious explanation, which is to just say they were holding a card in a way that I didn't see, and then they did a fancy move, and then they were holding the card, and so I didn't see it, and the way they moved their hand, was sufficient to, to disguise it from me until they revealed it, but that just seems really hard. Like, how could you do that? Wouldn't that be really hard to do? And the answer is yes, and they practice it a lot until they can do it reliably. But it takes a lot of work to do that. A lot of hard practice. And most people sort of have trouble imagining putting in that amount of effort for something like that. And so the brain kind of instinctively assumes, well, it must be something else then. There must be some other trick to it then. Right? But there isn't. That's what it is. The magic trick essentially is in being willing to put in the time to learn how to do it. I think that's neat. Anyway, I will leave it there for now. Go watch In and of Itself on Hulu, and I will talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.